give you a little anecdote here to kind of.
Okay.
I had a visit from a couple gentlemen from our friends at Austin Lawrence Partners. I may or may not have said some unpleasant things about their development choices on the internet, and the conversation went something like, I should be grateful to them for buying up these empty buildings and turning them into things that I may or may not be able to afford.
So Justin, one of the things on the way, we were walking up from Durham Central Park, and we were talking about how are there ways in which local people, local business people, retailers, restaurants can benefit from the developments going on downtown. And so it's not just the big money and the big developers that come in here and build these buildings or renovate them. And your business is here in this building, just down the hallway. And so, how did you all make that happen? How did two local kids make good? How did you make it so that you guys could be in a downtown building in a wonderful space on Main Street?
Yeah, it was through a variety of partnerships. A big one being with American Underground. They're part of the American Tobacco Campus renovations, and now that they have a space here on Main Street, Gabe and I shared office space in their building, so we were part of that ecosystem and were able to take advantage of the business development and economic development tools and opportunities that were in that space. We were speaking with a lot of the other business owners that actually carried our shirts in their stores. When we started thinking about retail, Jennifer Donner was a big part of that. The folks at Ox and Rabbit were also very helpful in that way. And so, through those partnerships, we decided, this is what we want, this is the goal that we want to meet, and we took that to American Underground, and they were able to help us in the development of the space. In some of we worked with our office mate Salim on doing the Kickstarter video, and that was more of a local community effort to raise that money. So
that was great. That was a big success.
It was, and so there's some combination there between connecting with other local businesses, the community, the developers, all to make this opportunity possible. And so, as much as we enjoy the fact that we now have a space, it would be fantastic to see more retail similar to Runaway make its way into the downtown sphere at a price that is manageable for a new venture. And so the conversation becomes, how, as a small business, whether it's one that already exists like ours or one that may be a step behind or the very beginning, how do they take advantage of the development? How can they make those partnerships to take their business to the next level?
Well, I think that's a great question to which I don't really have the answer. I think you probably know more about that than me. But I do think that there are sources of technical support, whether it be what you talked about at American Underground or Durham Tech Small Business Center, and there are others. One of the big issues is going to be price. It's expensive real estate now. Downtown Durham is really expensive real estate, and when people are coming in and redeveloping a building, they're charging a lot for their ground floor retail. So that means that businesses are going to need capital to be able to afford that. A great business plan and a really good business and good product. So what I would say is some businesses are going to be able to do that and some aren't. And we talked earlier about businesses which I think are going to be ripe for downtown, especially as the number of residents grows. the Bodega that opened recently.
Yeah. Oh man, that's been great.
Yeah, and I think that that is a business I hope they will thrive, and I think that they can, because I think more and more people are not only working downtown, but living downtown. And I think when that critical mass grows, it'll be easier for street level retail to prosper. But I also know that the issue of being able to afford the space is real.
Right.
And I don't have the answer to that.
Now, is there any opportunities when these discussions are being had where the city or the developers, we talked about incentives earlier, how can you create incentives for the developers to say, I want to make sure that I get a local business in my space, or I want to make sure that my residents are very conscious of shopping local, or taking alternative transit, all the things that we discuss as a community. The newer developments, how do we make sure that those conversations are being had so that they're aware of the culture that Durham has created and would like to sustain?
Yeah. Part of that incentivizes itself. That is to say, if you want to be a part of what's going on in Durham, and if you are part of the Durham ethic, you're going to want a local restaurant to be in your development.
Right.
I'm not saying that every developer will do that, but look around us and think about it. We discussed 21C, we discussed the Durham Hotel. These are local developments. I mean, these are big developments. Well, a local developer did the Durham Hotel.
Right.
With some money from
Elsewhere.
outside of Durham. But they have a local chef there, and 21C does too. They don't have chains. I think that's the incentive for developers to do that is already there. And you mentioned, I didn't know, but you said the Jack Tar is going to have the folks from Pizza Toro there, right? Which is
I believe that's true. You can
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay,
but I
great.
believe
Well,
that's-
but I think that would make a ton of sense, and that will also be true for the retail. But I think that we just haven't had as much experience with retail downtown.
Right.
And it's my hope that it will be a locally developed. Excuse me. I don't think that's something that a city can, absolutely require. It's something that we can encourage. When we do give an incentive, we have what's called a Durham-based business plan in terms of the construction, in terms of the vendors that they use, in terms of the people that if they're a business that gets an incentive, the employment that they offer, they have to go through the workforce, our career centers to hire. So we do have that in place. When I think about the future of downtown, one of the aspects I think is important is what actually happens during construction. Because we have so much construction now, and we're going to have more. It's not going to be less.
Right.
And that means that there's going to be constant challenges for that. So we have the folks on Pear Street.
Right.
And I remember when you and Gabe talked to me about going into that little coffee shop space on Pear Street, and I said, don't do it.
Yeah.
You remember that?
I do.
That was good advice. Because I think that it's very difficult to be on Pear Street right now, and it's going to be tough for the next year and a half. And so I think that one issue is, how do we do a really good job with the people who are, so Austin Lawrence, which is building that tower, they need to be incredibly informative to the other retailers there. They need to do everything they can to make that as livable as they can for the people around their construction. And the city has a big role in that, which is enforcement. They need to be doing everything that they are supposed to do, but enforcement's not going to do it all. Part of it's just going to be they have to be paying attention and be courteous, and they have to be really helpful to the other businesses.
And I think that's maybe where some of the disconnect is between citizens and the developers, is that information is being lost somewhere in the pipeline from Austin Lawrence or whoever the developer is to the people that experience downtown, whether it's live, work, or enjoy. And how do we, as citizens, how can we engage them? Is there an office that we should be visiting, or a newsletter that we should be on? Is it a city council meeting that we should be at?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's that centralized.
Okay.
I think there's a developer there, they're building a building. The city's paying attention that they meet the legal requirements. That you don't need to worry about. But how are they behaving towards other people if they are being disruptive in a way that they shouldn't be? People need to go see that developer and talk to them. Yeah, it's that's,
Or they come see you in your place
or
of
they
business.
come see me. They come see me, and I will tell them to go see that developer.
Yeah.
Which is the kind of thing I do. I mean, I'll give you a good example. A friend of mine who's a merchant who has a store on Paris Street talked to me recently about the situation there, and she was already really in touch with city folks, but she wanted me to know about it. I also was in touch with our city staff. They're on our part of it. But I also think it's really a lot about just people communicating with those people who are doing the building and making their connections yourself and getting them to do the right thing. So the city has a role, but it's only part of the deal.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I think we're going to cut it there. I appreciate it, as always, Steve, spending
Justin,
time
it was
talking
fun.
about.
Who knows what we'll do next time?
Yeah, the list keeps growing about
Right.
the things that are happening in Durham and
Yeah.
the changes that are taking place. So this certainly won't be our last conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
You can check us out at clarioncontent.com. All of the socials as well at Clarion Content. Send in your questions, your concerns, your thoughts about what we're talking about ideas that you may have for future topics, questions that you want answered. We're both all ears and would like to help continue the conversation. So again, please send in those questions and we'll see you next time.
And I hope the camera didn't just constantly get my bald spot.
While we're talking about Liberty Warehouse real quick,
Yeah.
can you dispel a myth for us about Dave & Buster's being in that building?
I don't even know what David Buster's is, so I can't dispel it.
Well, that may be a good sign then. If you, as a city councilman, have not heard about Dave & Buster's.
But you raised another good point, which is 605 West Chapel Hill Street, which honestly I think is, I would say, this is my personal aesthetic opinion, that's pretty much the worst looking of the new apartment buildings that we have. I don't know why 605 looks like it does. But I think that when I see something like that, I think, maybe our regulations aren't good enough. If 605 West can look as bad as it does, to be a kind of Legoland, apartment building there, I'm sure inside it's great, and I know people that live there and really like it.
We'll make sure 605 sees this video.
I don't have any problem saying that out loud to anyone